The family sat around the flickering Christmas tree, its warm lights casting dancing shadows on the walls. But their focus wasn't on the stockings or the presents. It was on the doll. The ceramic figure sat on the mantel, its cracked porcelain face glinting in the light. Its eyes seemed to follow them, though they were nothing more than painted glass. A thin crack ran down its cheek, curling at the corner of its mouth like a sinister smile. The whispers began softly, almost imperceptible. At first, they thought it was the wind brushing against the windows. But the sound was different, like dry leaves rustling inside their heads. Each member of the family stiffened as the whispers grew louder. Words formed, delicate yet sharp, slicing through the room. "She hid things," the voice rasped. "Your mother took secrets to her grave." The room fell silent. The youngest, Lucy, clutched her father's arm, her wide eyes locked on the doll. Their mother had passed away years ago, leaving behind a family bonded by her absence. But this was something none of them had expected. The whispers continued, pulling at threads of their history, unraveling truths they hadn't even known were lies. "She protected you," the doll whispered, its voice low and deliberate, "from what you cannot escape." As night fell, the atmosphere in the house shifted. Shadows grew longer, darker. The whispers transformed into an unrelenting murmur, echoing through their minds. The tree lights flickered, casting distorted shapes on the walls. "It's just a toy," the father muttered, his voice lacking conviction. He reached for the doll, intending to throw it into the fire. But as his hand grazed its surface, the whispers erupted into a screech. "A debt must be paid," it shrieked. "Blood binds the pact. Someone will die." The family recoiled, terror etched on their faces. The doll's cracked smile seemed to widen, and its painted eyes gleamed as if alive. "What debt?" the eldest daughter, Sarah, demanded. Her voice trembled, but anger masked her fear. "What is this thing talking about?" The doll's response came as a whisper, each word like ice sliding down their spines. "A pact made in desperation. A price unpaid. The sins of your ancestors fall to you." Lucy's scream pierced the tense air. The family turned to see her tumbling down the staircase, her small body landing with a sickening thud at the bottom. She lay still, her face pale as moonlight. "Lucy!" her father shouted, rushing to her side. Her eyes fluttered open, and relief washed over them as she groaned in pain but moved her limbs. "It was just a fall, or was it?" "One down," the doll hissed, its voice dripping with malice. "How many more must fall?" Panic surged through the family. They couldn't dismiss it as coincidence. The whispers, the fall, it was all connected. And the doll was at the center of it. The whispers grew louder, filling the house with an oppressive energy. It spoke of a hidden pact, struck generations ago to save their family from ruin. The price? A bloodline cursed with tragedy unless the debt was repaid. "Lucy is the key," the doll said, its voice soft but insistent. "Her innocence can break the chain. But only if you act before the clock strikes midnight." The family gathered around the doll, desperation etched on their faces. "What do we do?" Sarah asked, her voice breaking. The doll fell silent, its gaze unyielding. The clock ticked loudly in the background, each second a countdown to their doom. As the clock's hands aligned at midnight, the family made their choice. They placed the doll in the center of the room, surrounded by relics of their ancestors, photos, heirlooms, and letters. They chanted the words inscribed on a yellowed piece of parchment the doll had guided them to dot. The air grew cold. The lights dimmed. Shadows twisted and writhed as the doll began to crack, pieces of porcelain falling to the ground. With a final, ear-splitting screech, the doll shattered, leaving behind a pile of ash. Silence. The family looked at each other, unsure if it was truly over. But the whispers were gone, and for the first time in hours, the house felt still. Lucy smiled faintly. "It's gone," she whispered. And though they didn't know what lay ahead, they knew one thing: the curse was broken. or so they hoped. Outside, beneath the snow-covered branches, a soft whisper carried on the wind. And in the shadows of the forest, a new doll waited, its glassy eyes gleaming with anticipation. The first snowfall of December blanketed the neighborhood in white, transforming every house into a winter wonderland. But for the Thompson family, the joy of Christmas was overshadowed by an eerie presence sitting on their fireplace mantel, a mischievous elf doll. Its grin stretched too wide, its painted eyes gleaming with an unsettling liveliness. A gift left anonymously on their porch, it came with a single note. He watches. He protects. But beware the cost. At first, the doll seemed harmless. Each morning, it appeared in a new spot, perched on the Christmas tree, dangling from the chandelier, or nestled among the presents. The children, Abby and Max, giggled at its antics, convinced it was part of the holiday magic. But soon, the doll's tricks took a darker turn. The Christmas tree lights flickered uncontrollably one evening, casting sinister shadows on the walls. Ornaments fell, shattering into pieces without anyone touching them. The smell of burnt gingerbread filled the kitchen, though no one had baked anything that day. The family chalked it up to coincidences, until they found the first message. Written in candy cane stripes across the frosted windowpane were the words, "Sing the carols or face the silence." Despite the unsettling note, the family carried on. But as Christmas Day drew nearer, the elf grew more demanding. It whispered in the dead of night, urging them to complete holiday traditions with obsessive precision, hang the stockings perfectly, light the candles at dusk, and never let the fire go out. One evening, Abby forgot to leave cookies out for Santa. The next morning, the kitchen was a disaster. Flour covered the counters, shattered cookie jars littered the floor, and the elf doll sat in the center of the chaos, holding a note. "The spirit weakens when you neglect tradition." The family started to feel trapped, their holiday cheer replaced with dread. Max noticed something etched into the back of the doll's head, an ornate symbol matching the one they'd seen in the Christmas doll that whispered secrets. The connection chilled them to the bone. Late one night, the whispers intensified, luring Abby to the mantel. The elf's painted eyes gleamed in the firelight as it hissed. "Your family's debt has not been paid. The joy of Christmas is borrowed, not earned." The doll revealed that generations ago, their ancestors had made a pact with the spirit of Yuletide to escape a harsh winter. In exchange for their survival, their descendants would owe an unpayable debt to embody the perfect Christmas spirit every year. Failure would bring consequences, escalating misfortune that would grow darker with each generation. "The snowman warned you," it sneered, referencing the snowman that followed me home. "And the doll spoke the truths your mother hid. Now it's my turn to collect." The doll's ultimatum was clear. By midnight on Christmas Eve, the family must complete a flawless Christmas celebration, tree decorated to perfection, a feast prepared, carols sung, and gifts exchanged, or lose their holiday spirit forever. If they failed, the elf promised to steal Christmas itself, leaving them with a cold, empty existence. Desperation drove the family into overdrive. They baked, sang, decorated, and wrapped gifts with feverish intensity, all under the elf's watchful gaze. The air grew colder, the lights dimmed, and an oppressive silence settled over the house, broken only by the ticking of the clock. As the clock struck midnight, the family gathered by the tree, exhausted but triumphant. The elf doll sat motionless, its smile frozen in place. "Did we do it?" Max asked, his voice trembling. The doll's eyes flickered with a faint glow. "You met the terms," it said, its voice softer now. "For this year." Before anyone could respond, the doll's porcelain body cracked, releasing a burst of cold air. The lights flickered back to life, and the oppressive tension lifted. The family sighed in relief, but their joy was short-lived. Abby spotted a new note lying in the pile of wrapping paper. "The debt continues. Another will come. Next Christmas, be ready." Outside, snowflakes swirled in the wind, and the neighborhood seemed to sparkle with untouched beauty. But just beyond the glow of their window, another elf doll sat in the snow, its eyes glinting with mischief. Somewhere in the distance, faint whispers carried on the frosty air, promising that the Thompson family's story was far from over. The mysterious invitation. The snowstorm howled through the night, cloaking the town in a dense, icy mist. In 3 separate homes, families that had endured the horrors of the cursed dolls, snowman, and elf, found identical letters slid beneath their doors. Each bore the same crimson wax seal and ominous message. Come to the Everwinter Toy Factory. Bring what haunts you. The answers you seek lie within. Reluctantly, they packed their artifacts. The porcelain doll with the cracked smile. The snowman figurine that once pursued them. The elf with its frozen grin. Each object carried the weight of their trauma, yet they felt compelled to face the truth. The families drove through the storm, the factory's silhouette looming against the swirling snow. The Everwinter Toy Factory had been abandoned for decades, its towering chimneys like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. When they entered, the creak of the heavy doors echoed through the cavernous space. Inside, the air was frigid and thick with the scent of dust and decayed wood. Dim, flickering lights illuminated shelves lined with half-finished toys. Mechanical music boxes played discordant holiday tunes, creating a haunting melody. The cursed toys in their possession seemed to vibrate, almost alive, as if they recognized their birthplace. The families were drawn to the center of the factory, where an enormous workshop sat bathed in a sickly green glow. A mechanical figure stood there, its joints creaking as it moved. It wore a twisted, painted smile and introduced itself in a gravelly voice. Welcome. I am the Toymaker. And you are my legacy. The families exchanged wary glances. One brave father stepped forward, clutching the cracked doll. What are you? Why have you done this to us? The Toymaker chuckled, a metallic, echoing sound. I was once a humble craftsman, bringing joy to children with my creations. But when the world forgot me, I sought help from the spirit of the frost. A being who offered me immortality in exchange for something small, the souls of my toys. I accepted. And now my children roam the world, spreading fear to feed our pact. The families listened in horror as the Toymaker revealed that each of their cursed artifacts was part of his grand design. Your ancestors, or perhaps even you, wronged the frost spirit. My creations were sent to remind you that debts must be paid. The Toymaker gestured to the cursed objects, which began to twitch and move. But you have one chance to end it all. Destroy the heart of the factory, the Everwinter globe. It binds me to this place and powers my children. But beware, they will not let you succeed easily. The families split up, navigating the labyrinth of the factory to find the Everwinter globe. Along the way, they faced nightmarish challenges. In a room filled with life-size dolls, the porcelain doll from the first story sprang to life, leading an army of its kin. This was the doll's test. The family had to solve a riddle to escape, using the memories of their mother's lullabies to calm the rampaging toys. In another room, the family faced a room of swirling snow, where their cursed snowman grew larger with every step. They used the warmth of a family heirloom, a holiday scarf, to weaken it, ultimately melting the snowman. In the final room, the last family encountered a labyrinth of mechanical traps set by their sinister elf. They had to work together, trusting one another and confronting their deepest fears, to outsmart the toy. The families converged in the heart of the factory, where the Everwinter globe glowed ominously on a pedestal. The cursed toys surrounded it, their glassy eyes glinting with malice. The Toymaker's voice echoed through the room. Break the globe if you dare! But know this, it holds not only my curse, but every sin, every secret your ancestors sought to bury. Are you ready to face the truth? With trembling hands, the eldest daughter from the first family stepped forward. She raised a hammer high above her head and struck the globe. It shattered into 1,000 shards, releasing a blinding light. As the light faded, the cursed toys crumbled to dust. The toymaker's mechanical form froze, its painted smile cracking. The factory began to collapse, and the families scrambled to escape. Outside, the storm had lifted. The air felt lighter, and the world seemed to breathe again. The families shared a bittersweet moment of relief, knowing the curse was broken. But as they parted ways, a child's voice echoed in the wind. "Mommy, look! I found a doll in the snow." And in the child's hands was a porcelain doll, its cracked face smiling faintly.
The toymaker never truly leaves.